So tell me, when is good no longer good enough? That's the question I was asking myself today as I was going through the day. And the idea here is if you feel that good is good, good enough, then you go on with your life and you do tomorrow. You will do tomorrow what you did today, and you're doing today what you did yesterday. And in some way, it works well. Status quo is preserved. People don't love change, and therefore, everything works out. And when you set specific routines that keep the status quo, what happens is you have your good, and then it's much harder to try to improve to go to the next level, especially if you have a vision to do more than you're doing right now. Because keep in mind that if you're good and you stay good, that's amazing. But guess what? In a year from now, in 5 years from now, you're still going to be good and more or less where you are right now. And I was listening to a TikTok video, and I don't remember which one it was because I was watching a few for about 15 minutes earlier today, and the person was asking the question, and the question was, "What if in a year from now you are where you are right now?" With meaning that would you accept to be who you are a year from now, or do you think that changes are needed? These are good questions. And I do believe that when you ask good questions, then these deserve great answers, and that's when we can grow. And I was remembering actually from in the years of videos I've watched about leaders, from leaders. I know that Donald Trump at some point was in a video, and I think it was when he was doing his show about he had a show where he had some contestants, and at the end he was keeping them or firing them, and at the end the winner would get some money for a charitable organization. And in one of the show there, he was talking about the fact that a good employee is the worst employee, because when an employee is bad, you can fire them. When an employee is amazing, then you do everything you can to help them, to lead them, to guide them to become better. But what happens is if you have a good employee, what happens is you cannot really fire them because they're doing a great job, but they're not good enough to become great employees. And that's why he found it was hard. And I'm sure that Kevin O'Leary, or some people know him as Mr. Wonderful, have said something similar. Because if you're great, no, if you're good, it's amazing. And I would say that probably the everything our society is working on good, but in some ways we need greatness, and that's what I'm trying to portray in this YouTube channel and with our community. So what does that mean to feel that good is no longer good enough and we need to go to the next step? Well, if you think of health, so a lot of people are choosing to become healthier. So my first topic is about health. On the other hand, choosing to become healthy is very vague. So what happens is everybody decides to become healthy. They change their diet for a little bit. They go to the gym for a little bit. But at the end, there's not a lot of changes. So in order to go from good to amazing, you have to have the intent to change to be better. So it's not just choosing. You're choosing to be healthier with the intent to be healthier. And I think that's quite different, because when you have the intent to achieve something, you have specific goals, often you have a timeline that goes with it, and you have the steps to achieve it. So if you are good with your health, try to see what you could choose uh, with intent to change to be better. And I think that you will you will be able to grow from that. So for example, I choose to go to the gym, and but in sometimes my mind is not always there, and it's not the best, because I know that I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about his the time when he was spending a lot of time at the gym, and he was saying that if you're at the gym be at a gym, focus on your movement, focus on what you do so that you can maximize your gain. And I do believe that. For the same way, if you are enjoying a book, you want to read the book and not, you don't want to have your mind somewhere else. Um, a lot of people, sometimes they are at work and they think about their family and what they would like to do after work. And when they're after work and with their family, then they're thinking about their work. So in some ways, people are no longer focusing on the present time, so they can be enjoying who they are at where they are. The second point I always talk after I talk about health is about relationship. So the idea here is we have a lot of good relationships, and a lot of people they collect relationships, collect friends, people in the network, and that's amazing. But at the same time, as you have great friends, you have to say, okay, is it possible to add to your network? Is it possible to add to your friendship list? And then if you do, then try to see, can I find people, find new connections that are in line with new goals and new ideas I have? So at the same time, you're expanding your group of friends, you're expanding your network, but in line with what you want. So at some point, you become a whole, and then you can have new connections. You can get people to meet new people. And as a group, your community can grow. And I think that's something to keep in mind as a great thing to do because we want to have more than good relationships. We want to have great relationships. That includes our family as well. So be there for each other and don't forget the greater the relationships, the greater the adventures and the deeper the connections. So I do believe that you can achieve that. The other part is about wealth. And a lot of us, a lot of like me and other people, we have a job and it's amazing. It is a good job. We have good living. We have a good life, and that's well. On the other hand, is that great? And the question is, what is that trigger point that is at the point where you are? What can you do within your job to go to the next step? What can you do parallel to your job to go to the next step? And the idea here is there's a need for trigger point. There's an idea, and I think I talked to you about it earlier. Let's see my notes here. Oh, yes. It's when you choose with intent to improve the situation. So having a good job, good salary is good. Now, if you want to have a great life, I think you need more resources. In order to get more resources, you need to choose to do so. So how do you do that? Well, that is part of my journey. I've been tutoring some students lately, and that is increasing my income a little bit, just a tiny little wee bit. But it's also bringing some skills, getting new connections, and it's expanding what I can do with my time. Because as I tutor, I always find new ways of doing things. I always bring my knowledge from the classroom to them. But at the same time, when I tutor students from outside from the outside the area from where I work. And that's good because I learn what these students are doing at their schools, and then it gives me ideas for my students at my schools. So see, in some ways, if you want to build wealth, new ideas, new resources, it is important to no longer just be good, but be better than good. We're always aiming to do greater things. So the idea here for today is this idea. Good is good. But the idea is at some point, good may not be good enough anymore. So what will you do to go to the next level? Well, you need to make choices with your health, choices with your relationships, choices with what you do with your time so you can build more wealth. So making choices is great, but you need to make sure that you have your vision where you can aim your attention, focus your energy. Because once you have that direction where you're aiming for, then all your ideas, all the choices, all your intention will be aligned for one purpose, and it's for that vision that you have to make the world a better place. And yes, by doing that, you might have to set aside a few things. So, for example, some of you, well, by tutoring, there's a few evenings sometimes that I would like to rest, that I just keep going, go for a walk so I can be more energized before I do the work. So, in some ways, it gets me moving more. To improve my relationship, I need to get out there to have the intention to make new friends and new connections. But if that's the case, may as well have them in line with your ideas and your goals. I think that's fair. And for your wealth, that's the same thing. I could decide to make more money to teach evening classes. True. Summer courses. True. I could decide to work at a store close by. I could decide to have an online store. All of these would be great because that would be income, therefore more money, in some ways more wealth. On the other hand, if it's not in line with what I want to do and my overall goals, then it's a bit of wasting time. It's not no, it's not even good. It's just good enough for for living day in day out, just keeping the status quo and not moving forward. So here's the message for you. I want you to choose what's best for you with intention so you get closer to your goals. And that is the idea I have today. I'm going to go to bed, and that's what I'm going to think about today, keeping in mind that good is good. But sometimes you have to realize that good, it's okay to say that it's no longer good enough so that you can make the steps to go to the next step. On this, I'm going to make a connection on this side with my milestone journey for all the steps growing to get closer to my goals and sharing that journey with you. And on this side, I'm going to put a link on how to make better plans so that you can achieve your goals and at the same time making better choices. I'll see you in the next video.